Yesterday is a 2019 film directed by Danny Boyle and starring Himesh Patel and Lily James. In the movie, Patel plays a struggling musician named Jack who just can't make it big. He's supported by his best friend and manager, Ellie, played by James, despite this. One day, after he decides to call it quits, a worldwide blackout happens where all the lights in the world turn off for 12 seconds and Jack is hit by a bus.
Just park the car
would you let go of my wheel?
Park.
Hey, come on!
Hey, watch it! Watch it!
Sakura! Oh my gosh! Sakura! Somebody call for help!
When he wakes up, he finds out that no one remembers the Beatles, or more so, they never existed. So he decides to cash in on their music and become famous. His newfound fame, however, starts to hurt the relationship with him and Ellie. So he needs to choose between his career or love. When the first trailer came out, a lot of people were actually talking about it. They thought it was a really cool concept. A worldwide blackout erases a pop culture staple or a historical event, and only one person remembers it? That is so cool and clever. But when it came out, it sort of just came and went. No one really talked about it again. People who saw it thought it was fine, but agreed it also didn't really deliver. The biggest problem was the film that it focused more on being a romantic comedy than taking advantage of its concept. Something being erased from the world and only one person remembers it has endless amount of possibilities for stories. It just writes itself. But does not taking over of its concept make it bad, or does it mix it up a bit, just enough to go and make it an enjoyable flick? Here, I'll be looking at the story itself, its message, and how its concept works and how it should be expanded. I'll also look at if it's worth the watch. So, before we're all 64, let's go and have a look at Yesterday. Jack is a musician who likes to make his own music, but no one seems to really care. He's supported by his family, friends, and best friend and manager, Ellie. He and Ellie have been friends since middle school when Ellie first saw him playing Wonderwall at a talent show. Because of this, she's his biggest supporter and also has a crush on him. But don't let Jack know that because he doesn't know. He works as a stalker at a store for a living, but doesn't really like it much there. Don't we all? When his music fails to attract anyone at a fair, even kids, he decides he's had enough. He thinks his music isn't good and is giving up on his music career. Despite protests from Ellie, he says he's done. So he goes home on his bike, which leads to an actually pretty cool scene and probably one of my favorites from the movie. While on his bike, some of the lights on the street begin to go out. Some more in the city go out, and then other cities and all around the world. All the lights in the whole world go out, causing a worldwide blackout for 12 seconds. During this, Jack gets hit by a bus and is knocked out. The lights come back on and the movie ends because he's dead. Alright, fine. He doesn't die, but looks like it did hurt at least. He wakes up in the hospital and Ellie explains what happened. He tries to get his life back together and his friends help him by giving him a new guitar. He sings Yesterday to his friends only for them to tell him that they have never heard of it, or even the Beatles. He soon finds out the Beatles' stuff that he owns is gone. Not only that, all their stuff is gone. He can't even find them on Google. It's like that they don't exist anymore. It's later shown that Coca-Cola and cigarettes don't exist as well. Jack decides this is a job for plagiarism. He decides to take their songs as his own. This is harder said than done as he can't remember all the lyrics. He does get some of them. He goes to a small studio who likes the songs and records them. At first he only sees a little bit of success, but most don't care. But don't worry, we'll get to that later. However, he soon gets the attention of Ed Sheeran, who gets him bigger gigs. He meets his manager Deborah, who likes his songs, and getting money too, and signs him up. So Jack becomes a celebrity with his music sales skyrocketing and listening to him online. However, the people who work with him began to make changes on the songs and covers, much to his dismay. Throughout the movie, Jack is also followed by two people who look confused. Jack enjoys his newfound fame, but Ellie doesn't and feels like she's putting more and more time into his career rather than with her, and that he has replaced his fans with her. She wishes him good luck on his career and leaves. While at a concert, Jack meets the two people who have followed him and who also remember the Beatles. Jack thinks they are going to expose him as a fraud, but instead they thank him for letting the Beatles' music live on in his form. In return, they give him a shocking little secret. Jack travels to a house by the sea, which leads to another really neat scene. Here, Jack meets the now old John Lennon, who is still alive. They have a little chat about life, and John tells him he had a happy one. John tells him to tell Ellie how he truly feels. At another concert, Jack tells the whole world he's stolen the music and he'll be downloading it for free. He also tells the world that he loves Ellie, which wins her heart. So the two run off away from Deborah and live a life together. The two get married and Jack is happy as his life is back to normal, only to find out that Harry Potter no longer exists. They have a normal life together, have kids, and all live happily ever after. For the most part, I think it's a cute little movie. I do like the relationship between Jack and Ellie. While Jack does truly love her, he just gets so caught up and determined on his music that he never notices her until later and sees he makes a mistake. There are plenty of good jokes in this movie. One I like is that when Ed says just that "Hey Jude" to be "Hey Dude."
Better watch out for those man-eating jackrabbits and that killer cacti. Hey, dude.
There can be some pretty scenery, and if you like Beatles songs, there are some pretty good covers here. While I can't say it's perfect, there is enough for me to enjoy it, and I suggest it. The film's message seems to be that you can't choose fame over love. Or more so, don't let fake fame take over love. If you want to be famous, be original. It's okay to be famous, but it has to be done on its own. If someone does that, then they might find love. If they steal someone else's art and pose it as their own, they don't deserve both and they can only choose one of them. But if you're going to take someone else's work because you want to spread it around, give it credit to the original people or whomever influenced you. While it does look like they're trying to go and say that you should give up your dream if there's someone who wants to be with you, I don't think they're exactly saying that. It's mostly don't forget those who supported you the most if you become successful. They are the ones who never gave up on you in the first place, so always make sure you have time for them in your life. Remember how I said Jack only sees modest success at first? Well, originally, that was supposed to be the whole movie. Jack was never going to be world famous. The idea is that no one could go and recreate the Beatles' music and get the same success. Only the Beatles could. The director got this idea one night while he was lying in bed and thought, if everyone forgot Star Wars except him, would he be able to go and recreate it? And he thought, no, he wouldn't. Only George Lucas and Steven Spielberg could. It was to show that being original is what makes you unique. Now, let's look at its premise. Here, a worldwide blackout causes all the lights to go out for 12 seconds. When it goes back to normal, some things have been erased from existence, including the Beatles, Coca-Cola, cigarettes, and Harry Potter. It's never stated if anything else does, but I'll get to that later. It's also shown that at least 3 people are aware of the changes, which I'll also touch on. The film really only shows on the Beatles' part that their music doesn't exist anymore. Nothing part of that really changes except some of the bands like Oasis, which have been erased due to being influenced by them. This is a bit of a problem. If the Beatles did fade out of existence, it would be more than that their music is gone. It would change the world. For example, it's possible that Paul wouldn't be the Thomas the Tank Engine anymore if they were never famous. Vietnam might have turned out a little bit differently because all those fans who were influenced by the Beatles' oppression were never opposed to themselves. The Charles Manson murders might have never happened if Helter Skelter didn't exist. Maybe Mark David Chapman went on to become somebody other than, well, a murderer. The Beatles helped influence more than just music and impact the world in a much bigger way. Hell, some people would not even be born if their parents met at Beatles concerts. That would suck, wouldn't it, being erased from existence?
Goodbye, humans! Oh, it hurts!
Huh, that's a bitch.
Though it is possible that they met by fate somewhere else. There's also smoking. If cigarettes never existed, that would mean millions of people never died from lung cancer. People like George Harrison, Ulysses Simpson Grant, and John Wayne might have lived longer. Walt Disney would have. If Disney lived about another 10 or 15 years, what might have changed? Would his dream of Epcot come into full fruition? Would the Disney Dark Age never have happened or just be delayed? Same for the Renaissance. Where was the Flintstones advertising Winston
The
cigarettes?
Flintstones has been brought to you by Winston, America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
Now, it should be noted that it's never said that smoking doesn't exist, just cigarettes. So it's possible that people smoke cigars or still smoke pipes. Just imagine Lorraine from Back to the Future with a pipe or a cigar in her hand. If Coca-Cola never existed, then who is Pepsi's main rival? Dr. Pepper, maybe? Does that mean no more polar bear ads? The image of Santa might be different, as Coke has said that they helped create the modern image. The Peanuts Christmas special might not even exist, as they had a big helping on it. If Harry Potter isn't around, then millions of kids never got into reading or fantasy. It's possible the careers of the three kids never took off and J.K. Rowling is still poor. With no Harry Potter, does that mean all the worst fanfictions like Minor Mortal doesn't exist? What's the worst fanfic now? The film really never touches on any of these things besides a quick gag. Yes, the film is only a couple hours long, so they can't focus on a lot of it, only a little, but still a little more detail would be nice. When Jack finds out the Beatles are gone, he does a quick search for them on Google. Why didn't he go on the most recent searches to go and see if anyone else was asking the same question? Or go to Reddit? And of course, Reddit may not exist anymore, so there's that. Wouldn't it have been cool to have little Easter eggs in the background? During the blackout scene, maybe someone is reading a Harry Potter book, but when the lights come back on, they're instead reading a Lord of the Rings book. Jack has some movie posters in his room. Maybe the poster is a little bit different, like a slightly different name or a different actor. Or maybe with Back to the Future, it was the actor who was supposed to go and play Marty before it was Michael J. Fox. That would have been clever. Just little Easter eggs like that would have been nice. How about historical events? Did they change? Maybe the Titanic never sank. If that happened, that would mean over 1,500 people never died and the updated safety measures that came into effect didn't come to effect. James Cameron never made the movie. No, it's possible he based it on another ship like Lusitania. It's never explained what caused the blackout as well. The newspaper that Jack reads does say that scientists think it was a solar flare, but it's never confirmed. If it was, it doesn't explain how a solar flare made things disappear. Personally, I think the Earth entered a wormhole and entered into another universe, where most things are the same, with some big and small things here and there. That's my theory. Then there's the ending. The ending released in theaters has Jack give up his music career and he and Ellie get married and have kids. Just before that, there's a scene where Jack says he feels like Harry Potter after defeating Voldemort, as everything can go back to normal. Ellie asks who Harry Potter is and he does a quick search on him, and it only shows a war veteran. Jack says it's no one and the film ends. It's a cute ending, but I think it could have been better. In fact, it was. There's an alternate ending on the DVD that is much better. In it, we see Jack propose to Ellie, which is cute, but then we get the last scene where it's Ellie who remembers Harry Potter, not Jack.
I feel like you're Harry Potter after defeating Voldemort. Last, everything could go back to normal. And it isn't normal. Wonderful.
Who?
Sorry?
Harry Potter, who's he?
No one. Nothing.
Time for bed.
Time.
This ending is so much better to me because it shows Jack wasn't the only person affected by the blackout. We know Ellie won't write the Harry Potter books, as it's not her character and remembering certain books would be impossible even for a diehard fan. All of this opens so much more. This was supposed to be the true ending, but for whatever reason, they went with the other one. What a shame. As said before, the John Lennon scene is really nice. He lived a happy life, supposedly away from drugs and alcohol, and seems to live as an artist based on what we see in his house. It's never established if he married Yoko or not, or married another woman. I like how his life turned out without becoming a piece of Swiss cheese, but there's one problem. What about the other Beatles? It's never explained what happened to them. There is a scene where looks like they are going to appear at a talk show, but that turned out to be a dream. Did they all live normal lives? Did they join other bands or sing independently? It would have been interesting to see what happens, but we don't. It would have been interesting to see something weird, like maybe one of them becomes something like the Beatles stood against, like something in the army. I just think it would have been really neat to see how their lives were in this timeline. Actually, some people were actually really annoyed when they weren't in there as it seemed in the trailer, as it advertised it would. I don't think it bothers me as much as it did other people, but still. Overall, I do think Yesterday is a fun watch. If you're a fan of the Beatles, alternate universes, or the Mandela Effect, you might find something in this. However, Beatles fans won't like the distractions, and they have nothing to do with the band, and people who like alternate universes won't like the concept wasn't used to its potential. I would still recommend it though for at least one watch. I would like to see more come out of this. I would like to see what else disappeared or changed and who remembers it. Focus on Jack's friends or random people. I would like to see it based on the alternate ending, as I said before, because it's better. It could be a sequel, a TV series, or even a graphic novel. Every episode or chapter could focus on a different person and the thing that changed. I would just hate to see a concept like this to be put to waste. I've seen this before with shows like Revolution and movies like The Invention of Lying. Well, until then, there's always fan fiction, I suppose. Yesterday may not be the perfect movie, but it's a good one, and maybe we should just let it be.